you the score. We're streaming live, by the way, on Capital FM Uganda. Kevin, thank you so much. So for swimmer lovers, guys that cannot tune into the radio, you can actually go into our Facebook page on Capital FM Uganda, and you will be able to see us, actually, see the people in shape that are in studio. There's a Manzi,
Thank you very much.
there's Brian, and there's Moses, President Moses here, the president
Moses
of the Uganda
Moses is just fine.
Federation
Actually, it's
Council.
not, because if you do
President
that,
Moses.
someone might think it is Magogo. There's just another Moses.
Somebody Moses
Oh,
has
actually,
football,
one.
yeah.
Someone was complaining that there are too many Moses in
I know.
this leadership position.
Yeah, so Council Moses.
Yes,
I
sir.
can use the other
Yes,
name, the
madam.
B name.
Yeah, that one, okay, you've eliminated the other two. When
No,
you say
the other
council.
one is also a lawyer.
Alan
He's
is a lawyer, by the way.
lawyer.
Mohamed is also a lawyer.
Hey, is he?
Yeah.
Actually, didn't know. I didn't know why he was a lawyer.
Yeah, so,
I've just gotten to know.
so you were saying something.
I was saying,
As we
Brian
were-
asked a very loaded question about how Uganda can begin swimming with the greats, and I said it's a big, it's a loaded question. We have a lot of work to do. Obviously, most people are miles ahead, so we're playing catch up. We need to have certain building blocks in place that enable us to be able to compete or to even come close. You need to have the sport organized in such a way that from the youngest of stages, athletes have got an environment that enables them to thrive, to grow, to become the best they can be. And that takes a number of things. We need to have, first of all, we need to have facilities in place. We need to have a good coaching base. We need to have funding support from the government, and that, of course, also leads into our facilities issue. We need to have a good administration because, again, athletes, you need people around them to ensure that all their activities are well managed. So it's a number of things, and I think it would take us a long time to answer it. But I can give you those few building blocks that would require us to move in those directions. But I think the fact that we are on a journey to start going there, I think is hope. It's a good place for us to start with. We have started writing a long-term athlete development plan, and that's where that detail is. Again, we have not wanted to give many excuses that we don't have this, we don't have the other. We are operating with what we have, and with what we have, we've managed to produce some local grown talent. We hope that talent now can be nurtured. But we would like to have a critical mass of athletes, that you target and say, from these ones, maybe we shall have 3-4 medals, starting at Africa level, which are determinable, which are very easy to predict. And by the way, we've already broken that Africa barrier. We've had Rebecca win at Africa level, Rebecca Sengonzi, who's based in the US. We've had Kirawo Namtewi win several medals. Kirawo Namtewi right now in her age bracket, in her actually previous age bracket, was Africa champion for 50 free, 50 meters free. Aisha, you said that Brian knows what 50 free is, right?
Now
Let me tell you,
knows.
Yes.
the
No,
most
no,
successful Olympian is a swimmer. The fact that he's a swimmer, I clearly know about the meter, so it is okay. Go ahead, Moses.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I think we also need to change the way our federations are set up. So the issues are deep. Most of us are volunteers. We're elected, and that's not unique to Uganda only. We're volunteers. The only difference is that you need people on the ground that are running the activities of the federation every day. In swimming, we've tried to put in place a secretariat. It's not well funded, but we're trying. We've got about 2-3 people that help to run the activities with our guidance as executive board.
How much help do you get from the international body?
We get an annual subsidy of $25,000. That helps us to run the office. It helps us to pay for some events here and there, but it's not a lot.
I know.
Yeah. So we also have to be creative and get sponsors on board and talk to National Council of Sports and government. There's been a lot of talk about sharing,
Revenue.
the national cake. We had a meeting the other day to discuss guidelines on how national funds allocated from the national budget should be shared out. And I think it's progressive. It's good that we have a new minister who has brought on board a new way of working. We have a new council led by Dr. Donald Rukare, who was been here before.
You actually, you're in into like the.
Now I knew Brian would say that.
Since you're the one who succeeded now knows about where you are, so it should be easy at least. A word for you. That's how it is. The word moves like that. Moses, shouldn't be afraid.
Well, I'm a bit shy to put it that way, but that's your opinion. But in all honesty, I think we are, personally, I'm pessimistic. I beg your pardon, I'm very optimistic that the future is really looking very, very good. The government is writing a new policy. We've not had a functional sports policy for all these years, which is really very absurd. Our law is, and I think Don said those things. I was recording him actually as he was talking. Don told us that the minister has made it a priority. And by the way, we've had an opportunity to sort of give him this feedback. And it's good that he's been listening and asking for advice. So with people like Don and the other guys on the board who are seasoned administrators who understand the terrain, I think the future looks quite promising. So funding, we hope that is sorted out. It would be nice if we know that in year X you expect, let's say 10 or 15 or 20, whatever they agree, so that you can plan. But you need to have a secretariat that is functional. You need to have, there's a couple of our colleagues, you look for the office of the federation and you cannot find it. And that's where we've also been. The office has been in Don's boot, my boot, once in a while, when the car is stolen or when the car, so those kinds of challenges. You cannot expect to compete on an international level when you're operating like that. The other guys are funded very, very thoroughly by the government. A survey was done to show how much money was injected in particular federations and Olympic committees vis-a-vis the medals that they received. And you can see that however much you want to run away from this fact, how much people do well is a function of how much you input. There's no shortcut.
Okay, guys, let's go for a break now. When we do return, we really need to wrap up with this. And we'll move on to a lot of what's happening.
Is that your laptop?
Weekly highlights and big moments of local and international sports.
Now I know who to call when you mess me up. Brian can manage you properly.